I've been through a lot. More than I ever thought I'd have to deal with in this lifetime. And just when I thought things had finally settled, that I could move forward, the past found a way to drag me right back in. My son, Brad, was the first to warn me. He called me up last week, voice low, like he didn't want anyone to hear. "Dad, don't go to the dinner at Aunt Lisa's house. It's a setup." I blinked, phone pressed to my ear. "What are you talking about?" "Mom's gonna be there," he said. I heard them talking. Aunt Lisa, Uncle Rick, even Susan. They're all in on it. They think you should make peace with her. They didn't tell you because they knew you'd say no. Dre, my ex-wife. The woman who burned our 26-year marriage to the ground over some guy at her office. I sat there gripping the phone, blood boiling. "Are you serious?" "Yeah, and Susan's pushing it the hardest," Brad muttered. "She thinks it's for the best if you two just sit down and talk things out. But I know you, Dad. I know you don't want that." Susan, my fiancée. I felt like my stomach flipped. Brad wouldn't lie to me. Not about this. "And you?" I asked. "What did you say?" Brad sighed. "I told them I wanted no part of it. And I told them they were wrong for doing this to you." I leaned back, running a hand down my face. My own family. My fiancée. Plotting behind my back to put me face to face with the woman who betrayed me. I had spent years rebuilding myself after Dre's affair. It nearly killed me mentally, emotionally. I went through hell and back to get my life together, to find someone new, someone who actually loved me. Or so I thought. Now I wasn't sure of anything anymore. And I had a feeling this was only the beginning. I sat in my car for a long time after Brad's call, just staring at my hands gripping the wheel. My own family. My own fiancé. Lying to me. Setting me up like I was some fool who couldn't see what was happening. I wasn't going to that dinner. No way in hell. But I wasn't about to sit back and let them play games with me either. I dialed Susan's number. She picked up fast like she'd been expecting me. "Hey, babe. Are you on your way?" I clenched my jaw. "No. Actually, I just found out something interesting." Silence. Then, "What do you mean?" Her voice was too light, too fake. "I mean that I know Dre's gonna be there. I know you all planned this behind my back." A pause. Then, "Who told you that?" Wrong answer. "That's what you're worried about? Not the fact that you lied to me?" I said, my voice sharp. "We didn't lie." "Yes, you did." I cut her off. "You planned this entire thing and didn't tell me because you knew I'd refuse. You all thought you could ambush me. Like I'm some idiot." Susan sighed heavily. "Look, we just thought it would be good for you to talk to her. To get some closure. You've been holding on to this anger for too long." I laughed bitterly. "Oh, I'm sorry, am I not moving on fast enough for you? You think setting me up with my cheating ex-wife is some kind of therapy session? It's not like that." "Then what is it like, Susan?" She didn't answer. I let the silence hang between us before finally saying, "If you actually respected me, you would have let me make my own choices. Instead, you went behind my back." She exhaled sharply. I just want you to be happy." I shook my head. "No, Susan. You want you to be happy. You want to play peacemaker, to force some storybook ending where I forgive Dre and we all smile over dessert. But that's not real life. That's not my life." More silence. "Then, so you're not coming?" I almost laughed. "No, Susan. I'm not." I hung up before she could say another word. 5 minutes later, another call. This time from my sister, Lisa. I let it go to voicemail. A minute after that, a text from my brother, Rick. "Rick, hey man, heard you're not coming. Can we talk?" I turned my phone over and stared at the ceiling of my car. They were scrambling. Good. Let them. I wasn't in the mood to talk to anyone, but I knew ignoring them completely would just drag this out longer. So after a few deep breaths, I called Rick back. He answered instantly. "Dude, what's going on?" I scoffed. "You tell me. You were part of this whole setup, weren't you?" Rick sighed. Look, man, it's not like that. We just... Stop. I cut him off. Don't feed me the same excuse Susan did. I already know the game. You wanted me to sit down with Dre like nothing ever happened. Like she didn't tear my life apart. It's not about forgetting what she did, he said. It's about moving forward. Everyone thinks. Everyone? I snapped. Everyone except me? The one person this actually affects? You all think you know what's best for me? You think I need to just move forward on your timeline? Rick hesitated. Then, quietly, she regrets it, man? That almost made me laugh. Oh, does she? That's nice. Guess what? I don't care. Rick sighed again, and for the first time, I heard a bit of guilt in his voice. We just thought maybe if you talk, things wouldn't be so messy. Messy for who? I asked. You? Lisa? Susan? You all want me to just get over it so you don't have to feel uncomfortable? More silence. Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm done talking about this, I said. Tell Lisa and everyone else to leave me the hell alone about Dre. I don't owe her anything. And I sure as hell don't owe you guys an explanation for protecting my own peace. Before he could respond, I ended the call. I sat there for a while, staring at my phone waiting, because I knew what was coming next. And sure enough, 20 minutes later, Susan showed up at my house. I heard the knock at my door and knew it was her before I even checked. Susan never just showed up at my place unannounced. But after that call, after I shut her down, I knew she wasn't going to let it go that easy. I opened the door and there she was, arms crossed, face tense, like she was trying to keep it together. We need to talk, she said. I stepped aside, letting her in, but I didn't say a word. She walked straight to the kitchen, like she owned the place, pacing a little before turning to me. Why are you being so stubborn about this? I laughed, actually laughed. Oh, I'm sorry, am I being difficult? You mean because I don't want to be ambushed by my cheating ex-wife? Susan exhaled sharply. I told you it wasn't like that. Then what was it like, Susan? Huh. I leaned against the counter. Explain it to me. Because from where I'm standing, it sure looks like you and my family think you know better than me about my own damn life. She rubbed her temples, frustrated. Look, I get that you're hurt. No. You don't get it. My voice was calm, but I could feel the anger rising. You don't get what it's like to have your entire life blown apart by someone you trusted. To watch the person you built decades with lie to your face, and then have to start over like none of it mattered. She swallowed hard, looking away. I spent years rebuilding myself, I continued. And now? Now I find out the people closest to me are trying to force me back into the worst part of my life. And the worst part? The worst part, Susan? It's you. Because I thought you were on my side. Her face fell. I am on your side. No. You're on your side. You wanted me to play nice, so we could all pretend everything's fine. But it's not fine, and it never will be. Susan looked like she wanted to argue, but she didn't. Instead, she just stood there, staring at me, biting her lip. I can't believe you did this, I muttered, shaking my head. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said softly. But you did. The words hung between us. She shifted uncomfortably. So what does this mean for us? I exhaled. I wanted to yell, to tell her to leave, to just be done. But instead I just looked at her and said, I need time. She nodded slowly, but I could see the panic in her eyes. I didn't care, because at that moment I wasn't sure if I could ever trust her again. After Susan left, I sat on my couch, just staring at nothing. My mind was racing. How long had this been going on? How many conversations had they had behind my back, deciding what was best for me like I was some child? And more than anything, why was Susan so invested in this? I wasn't ready to talk to her again, but I sure as hell wasn't just going to sit here stewing in my own thoughts. So I did the only thing I could think of. I called Brad. Hey, Dad. His voice was tense. He probably figured Susan had already come by. I need you to be straight with me, son, I said. How long has this been in the works? He hesitated. A few weeks, I think. Maybe longer. I didn't know at first. But then last week, I overheard Aunt Lisa and Susan talking about how it was finally time. Time for what? To bring you and Mom back together, Brad said flatly. My stomach twisted. Excuse me? Dad, I think this wasn't just about you two talking. I think they were hoping for some kind of reunion. I couldn't even process the words at first. I let out a bitter laugh. You're kidding me? I wish I was, Brad said. Aunt Lisa kept saying Mom deserved another chance. That she was sorry and had changed. That she still loved you. I gripped my phone tighter. And Susan? Brad sighed. I don't know, Dad. She wasn't as pushy as Lisa, but she didn't argue against it either. She said something about how it'd be better for everyone if you and Mom at least found common ground. I clenched my jaw. So, it wasn't just about a conversation. They were trying to push me back into Dre's arms. After everything. I took a deep breath. Brad, thank you for telling me. You didn't have to, but you did, and I'll never forget that. You don't deserve this, Dad, he muttered. And I'm not going along with it. I already told them I won't be there. Good. I hung up, my heart pounding. This wasn't just manipulation. This was betrayal. And I wasn't about to just sit back and let it happen. I wasn't about to let this slide. Not after what Brad just told me. I grabbed my keys and drove straight to Lisa's house. By the time I pulled up, I could already feel my anger bubbling over. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my emotions in check, but the second I knocked on the door and Lisa opened it, all that patience went out the window. She smiled like nothing was wrong. Oh, you changed your mind about dinner? I stepped inside without waiting for an invite. Cut the act, Lisa. Her smile dropped. What? You planned this whole thing. You, Rick, Susan, all of you. You didn't tell me Dre would be here, because you knew I'd refuse. Lisa sighed, crossing her arms. I was going to tell you. When I was already sitting at the table, and she walked through the door? She looked away. I just thought. No. You didn't think, Lisa. Or worse, you did, and you just didn't care how I felt. She didn't deny it. And what's this nonsense about getting me back together with Dre? I demanded. Lisa pursed her lips. She made a mistake. A mistake? I scoffed. She had an affair. She lied to me for months. That's not a mistake, that's a choice. Lisa shook her head. She regrets it, you know. She's different now. She realizes what she lost. Good for her, I shot back. But that's not my problem. She still loves you, you know. I laughed coldly. Then she should have thought about that before crawling into bed with another man. Lisa sighed. I just thought if you two could talk, you'd see that there's still something there. You thought wrong. I turned to leave, but then she said something that made my blood run cold. You know, Susan only wanted what was best for you. I stopped in my tracks. Oh, so now we're talking about Susan? Funny, because last I checked, my fiancée shouldn't be involved in any of this. But here she is, playing along with your little scheme. Lisa hesitated. She just wanted you to be happy. I turned back to face her. No, Lisa. She wanted me to do what you wanted. And now I have to ask myself, why? Lisa shifted uncomfortably. Why would my own fiancé be okay with setting me up with my ex-wife? I asked, narrowing my eyes. Lisa didn't answer. And that silence? That told me everything. Something wasn't right. Something bigger was going on. And I was about to find out exactly what it was. I left Lisa's house feeling worse than when I arrived. Something was off. Lisa was too nervous, too hesitant. And Susan? The woman I was supposed to marry was playing along with my family's nonsense, maybe even leading it. Why? I drove home, my thoughts racing. I didn't want to believe it, but a dark thought crept into my mind. Was Susan hiding something? I grabbed my phone and scrolled through our messages, looking for anything that felt off. That's when I noticed it. A few weeks ago, she had started going out more, staying late at work dinners, taking long phone calls outside. I had brushed it off at the time, trusted her. But now I wasn't so sure. I went to my laptop and logged into our shared phone account. I never had a reason to check before, but tonight I needed answers. I pulled up her call logs, and there it was. A ton of calls to an unknown number. Some late at night. Some for almost an hour. I copied the number and pasted it into a search site. No name came up. Just a location. The same city where Dre lived. My hands went cold. I swallowed hard, my heartbeat pounding in my ears. I needed to hear it for myself. So I dialed the number. It rang twice before someone picked up. Hello? The voice was familiar. And the moment I heard it, my stomach dropped. It was Dre. I hung up immediately, my hands shaking. Susan had been talking to Dre behind my back. This wasn't just about a dinner. This went deeper. And I was about to find out everything. I sat there staring at my phone, my pulse hammering in my ears. Susan had been talking to Dre behind my back. Why? There was only one way to find out. I grabbed my keys and drove straight to Susan's place. I wasn't going to wait around for more lies. I needed the truth, and I was going to get it tonight. When I got there, I didn't even bother knocking. I used my key. She was in the kitchen, wine glass in hand, looking surprised to see me. Hey, I thought you were staying home tonight, she said with a forced smile. I shut the door behind me. Who were you talking to just now? Her smile faltered. What? Don't play dumb, Susan. I know you've been talking to Dre. She blinked, then let out a nervous laugh. Where is this coming from? I called the number. I heard her voice. Susan went pale. That was all the confirmation I needed. How long? I asked, voice tight. She set the wine glass down and ran a hand through her hair. A few months. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. Months. My voice came out sharp. So while I was trusting you, while I thought we were planning a life together, you were having secret conversations with my ex-wife? It wasn't like that, she said quickly. Then what was it like? She hesitated. She reached out to me first. Said she regretted everything, that she missed you. She thought maybe I could help fix things. I let out a hollow laugh. Fix things? What exactly needed fixing, Susan? She swallowed hard. She said she still loved you. I clenched my fists. And instead of shutting that down, instead of telling me, you decided to help her? I wasn't trying to hurt you, she insisted. I just thought if you talked to her, maybe you'd get closure. Maybe it would be good for you. Closure? I scoffed. Or were you hoping I'd take her back? Her eyes darted away. That hesitation told me everything. That's it, isn't it? I stepped closer, my voice cold. You weren't just trying to help. You were testing me, seeing if I still had feelings for Dre. Susan let out a shaky breath. I didn't mean for it to get this far. Unbelievable, I muttered, shaking my head. I love you, she said desperately. I just needed to know if you still loved her too. I stared at her, feeling nothing but disappointment. You didn't trust me, I said quietly. Tears welled in her eyes. I was scared. No, Susan. You were selfish. Silence. I took a deep breath, letting the weight of her betrayal sink in. This changes everything, I said, my voice firm. Her face crumpled. No, it doesn't. We can talk about this. Please don't just. No, Susan. I cut her off. I'm done. I turned and walked out, leaving her standing there in stunned silence. As I got in my car, one thing was clear. I wasn't just done with Susan. I was done with all of them. I drove aimlessly for a while, letting everything sink in. Susan had been talking to Dre for months. She didn't just go behind my back. She actively entertained the idea of me getting back with a woman who destroyed my life. And my family? They went right along with it. It was like nobody respected my boundaries. Nobody cared how much I suffered after Dre's betrayal. They all wanted me to just move on in the way they thought was best. Well, I'd show them what moving on really looked like. I pulled into my driveway and grabbed my phone. The first thing I did, I blocked Susan. On everything. No texts, no calls, no social media. Then I sent one final message to my family group chat. I know everything. I know about the setup. I know about Susan talking to Dre. I know you all went behind my back thinking you knew what was best for me. Let me be clear, I am done. With all of you. Don't call. Don't text. Don't show up at my house. If you cared about me at all, you would have respected my choices. Instead, you betrayed me. Then I muted the chat. Almost immediately, my phone started blowing up. Lisa. Wait, let's talk about this. Rick. Come on, man, don't do this. Susan. Through another number, please don't shut me out. I love you. I turned off my phone and sat in the dark. I should have felt relief. Like I had finally taken control. But instead, all I felt was exhaustion. Years of pain. Of rebuilding. Of trusting again, only to be blindsided once more. Maybe that was my mistake. Maybe I should have never trusted any of them in the first place. I barely slept that night. Even with my phone off, I could feel the weight of all their messages, their excuses, their attempts to drag me back in. By morning, I had one goal: to make sure none of them had any power over me ever again. I turned my phone back on, and sure enough, I had dozens of missed calls and texts. I ignored them all. But then one message stood out. Brad. Dad, I think you should check your email. Something's not right. My stomach tightened. Not right how? I immediately opened my laptop and checked my inbox. And that's when I saw it. An email from Dre. Subject: Can we please talk? I stared at it for a long time before clicking. Hey. I know this is a shock, and you probably don't want to hear from me. But I need you to understand, I never meant to hurt you. I've changed. I've realized what I lost. And I just want a chance to explain. Please. Meet me for coffee. One time. If you still want me out of your life after that, I'll respect it. I still love you. I gritted my teeth. There it was. The truth. This wasn't just about some closure talk. Dre wanted me back. And Susan knew it. The worst part? My family went along with it. They wanted me to sit down with this woman, hear her out, maybe even forgive her. As if everything she did could be washed away with a simple coffee chat. They actually thought I was that weak. I shut my laptop. No. I wasn't falling for this. I had already lost years of my life to Dre's lies. I wasn't about to lose another second. I grabbed my phone and sent one message. To Dre, there is nothing to explain. Stay out of my life. Then I blocked her too. I wish I could say that was the end of it. But people like Dre? They don't just go away that easily. And I was about to find that out the hard way. Blocking Dre should have been the end of it. But of course it wasn't. That afternoon, I was out running errands when Brad called again. Dad, you need to get home. Now. I could hear the tension in his voice. What's going on? I asked, already heading for my car. Mom's at your house, he said. She just showed up. She's been knocking for the past 10 minutes. I froze. She what? I told her to leave, but she won't listen. She keeps saying she just wants to talk to you. I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. Dre was at my house. Uninvited. Unwelcome. And completely ignoring the fact that I had blocked her just hours ago. I'm on my way. I drove home so fast I'm surprised I didn't get pulled over. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I saw her standing at my front door, looking all pathetic, like she was the victim in all this. Brad was off to the side, arms crossed, glaring at her. Good kid. He didn't buy into her act for a second. I parked, got out, and marched straight toward her. What the hell are you doing here? I snapped. She turned, her face lighting up like she actually thought this was some kind of romantic reunion. I just wanted to see you, she said softly, like that would fix everything. I ignored the way my stomach twisted. I had spent years loving this woman, but whatever feelings I once had, they were long gone. I kept my voice steady. I told you to stay out of my life. I blocked you. And your response is to show up at my house. She flinched. I just thought if we could talk in person. Talk about what, Dre? How you cheated, lied? How you let me spend years believing we had a good marriage while you were off with some other guy? She swallowed hard. I was lost back then. I laughed coldly. And now you've found yourself and decided I'm the prize? She bit her lip. I never stopped loving you. That did it. I stepped closer, lowering my voice so Brad wouldn't hear. You don't love me, Dre. You love the idea of me. You love the man who stayed, the man who put up with your crap for 26 years. But that man? He's gone. And you? You have to live with the fact that you threw him away. Her eyes filled with tears. Maybe she thought that would work on me. It didn't. Now leave, I said. And don't come back. She stood there for a second, like she wanted to argue. But then her gaze flickered to Brad, who was still watching. Maybe she realized she had no allies left here. Without another word, she turned and walked to her car. I waited until she pulled out of the driveway before I let out a breath. Brad clapped me on the shoulder. Proud of you, Dad. I managed a smile. Me too, kid. Me too. But something told me this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I thought Dre showing up at my house was as bad as it could get. I was wrong. The next morning, Brad called me again. But this time, his voice was different. Tense. Hesitant. Dad, I need to tell you something, but you're not gonna like it. I sat up straight. Just say it. He sighed. It's about Mom and Susan. My stomach dropped. What about them? Brad hesitated, then said, I think Susan knew Mom was gonna show up at your house yesterday. I gripped the phone tighter. What makes you say that? Because I saw them together last week. Silence. I swear my brain stopped working for a second. You saw who together? Susan and Mom, Brad said. They were having lunch. I didn't think much of it at the time, but now it all makes sense. I felt a slow, burning rage creeping up my spine. Where? That little cafe downtown near Susan's office. I exhaled through my nose, trying to keep my anger in check. And you didn't tell me? I didn't know it was important. I thought maybe it was some weird coincidence, or I don't know. But after everything that's happened? Dad, I think Susan helped Mom plan this. I clenched my jaw. First, Susan had been talking to Dre. Now, Brad was telling me she had actually met up with her. This wasn't just about some misguided attempt at closure anymore. Susan had actively helped Dre manipulate me, and I needed to hear it from her own mouth. Thanks for telling me, Brad, I said. I'll handle it, Dad. I'll handle it. I hung up. Then I grabbed my keys. It was time to pay Susan one final visit. I drove straight to Susan's place, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. She had lied to me, repeatedly. I could handle betrayal from my ex-wife. I had expected that. But Susan, the woman who was supposed to be my future, she had chosen to help Dre, chosen to lie to me, chosen to manipulate me like I was too stupid to see what was happening. I wasn't about to let that slide. I didn't even knock. I used my key one last time. She was in the kitchen, sipping coffee, like it was just a normal morning. She looked up startled. Oh, I was just about to call you. Shut up, Susan. Her smile vanished. I know. She blinked. Know what? I stepped forward, my voice calm. Too calm. I know you met up with Dre. I know you've been working with her behind my back. I know you knew she was coming to my house yesterday. Susan's face paled. She set her coffee cup down, hands shaking. Who told you that? Does it matter? I snapped. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Trapped. How long, Susan? I asked. How long have you been plotting with my cheating ex-wife? It wasn't like that, she whispered. Then explain it to me. She ran a hand through her hair, frustrated. She reached out to me first. Months ago. She said she regretted everything, that she missed you. And I just wanted to help. Help who? Me? Or her? She swallowed. Both of you? I laughed bitterly. That's funny, because the only person who didn't get a say in any of this was me. She took a step forward, reaching for my hand. I swear I never meant to hurt you. I pulled away. But you did. Over and over again. She flinched. I thought maybe if you two talked, you'd realize there's still something there. You thought wrong. Her eyes welled with tears. I love you. I exhaled. No, Susan. You love control. You love thinking you know what's best for me. But you don't. And now, you don't get a say in my life anymore. She gasped. No, please. We can fix this. There's nothing to fix. I reached into my pocket, pulled out her engagement ring, and set it on the counter. We're done, Susan. She stared at it like it physically hurt her. No, she whispered. Please. You can't do this. I didn't do this. You did. I turned and walked away, for good. I walked out of Susan's house without looking back. I expected her to run after me, to scream, to beg. But she didn't. Maybe she knew. Maybe she finally realized there was no coming back from this. I drove home, heart pounding, but I wasn't done yet. I still had one last thing to take care of. My family. The people who had pushed this. Who had stood by and let it happen. I opened our family group chat, where I had already told them I was done, and sent one final message. Me, Susan and I are over. I know she's been meeting with Dre behind my back. I know all of you have been working to manipulate me into some fake reunion. Me, you've all made your choices. And now I'm making mine. I want nothing to do with any of you. Me, don't call. Don't text. Don't show up at my house. As far as I'm concerned, you're all strangers to me now. I hit send. Then, without waiting for their responses, I left the group. And blocked every single one of them. Lisa, Rick, everyone. They had all betrayed me, and now they could deal with the consequences. I shut off my phone and sat in silence. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. I had lost my marriage. I had lost my family. And now, I had lost the woman I thought I was going to marry. But somehow, I didn't feel broken. I felt like I had finally taken my life back. But just when I thought it was over, one last storm was waiting for me. For the first time in years, I felt like I was finally free. No more manipulation. No more fake apologies. No more people trying to control my life. But, of course, Dre wasn't done with me yet. 2 days after I cut everyone off, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something told me to pick up. Hello. Silence. Then a soft breath. It's me, Dre. I almost hung up, but before I could, she said something that made my blood run cold. I just wanted to tell you, I'm pregnant. I froze. What? I'm pregnant, she repeated. And it's yours. I laughed. A dry, bitter, humorless laugh. Nice try, Dre, but I haven't touched you in years. It's from before, she said quickly. Before everything fell apart. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was already... Stop. I rubbed my temples. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You're seriously trying this? After everything? I'm not lying, she insisted. I can take a test, a paternity test, whatever you want. I exhaled sharply. Dre, even if this was true, which I highly doubt, it changes nothing. But it does, she cried. We could start over. We could fix things. Fix things? I snapped. You think a baby is a magic reset button? You think I'm just going to forget everything you did because of this? I just don't want to lose you forever, she whispered. And there it was. The real reason. She was desperate. Because I had finally cut her out. Because she had no more power over me. I took a deep breath. Dre, listen carefully. I am done. If this is some pathetic attempt to keep me in your life, it's not going to work. If you're actually pregnant, congratulations. But I want nothing to do with you. Now lose my number. I hung up. And, for the first time in years, I knew I was finally free. For good.